Are you ready for the interview, Mr. Devil?
Yes, I am. But you must...
So I've been searching for a way to figure out how I can tell the world what I think of them. And it's been a pretty long search for words here, but I think I figured it out. So I'm going to use this book from Napoleon Hill here called Outwitting the Devil. Well, I'll just give you a link to the full book and you can listen to it for yourself. So first thing I want to say before we get into this is called Outwitting the Devil. So please don't take this as a religious thing. Anybody listening to this, please do not turn this off thinking that it is about religion, because it is not about religion. Just take the words you're going to hear and just listen to them and see what they mean to you. I don't really know what to say other than that, but please don't take this as a religious thing. And what I'm about to say, well, whether or not you believe in religion or not, you're going to end up here. So basically, okay, so what I think of the world around me, well, it's not really what I think, it's what I know, and it's what I can prove. And what I can prove is that roughly 97% of people are going to hell. So if you know me and you ever see me looking around at you, you ever see me anywhere, just know that there's pretty much zero chance that I don't think that you're going to hell. But let me explain what I think, what exactly that means. And I'm only going to use something you can learn greatly from as my medium to deliver my message to you. So you might think, oh yeah, this guy's crazy. He says I'm going to hell automatically, because pretty much that's what 97% of you going to hell means in the long run. But
Gained this control over human beings.
The story is too long to be told in a few words. It began over 1,000,000 years ago when the first man began to think. Up to that time I had control over all mankind, but enemies of mine discovered the power of positive thought, placed it in the minds of men, and then began a battle on my part to remain in control. So far I have done quite well by myself, having lost only 2% of the people to the opposition.
I take it from your answer that men who think are your enemies. Is that right?
It is not right, but it is correct.
Tell me something more about the world in which you live.
I live wherever I choose. Time and space do not exist for me. I am a force best described to you as energy. My favorite physical dwelling place, as I have told you, is in the minds of the earthbound. I control a part of the brain space of every human being. The amount of space I occupy in each individual's mind depends upon how little and what sort of thinking that person does. As I have told you, I cannot entirely control any person who thinks.
You speak of your opposition. Just what do you mean by that?
My opponent controls all the positive forces of the world, such as love, faith, hope, and optimism. My opponent also controls the positive factors of all natural law throughout the universe, the forces which keep the earth and the planets and all the stars balanced in their courses. But these forces are meek in comparison with those which operate in the human mind under my control. You see, I do not seek to control stars and planets. I prefer the control of human minds.
Where did you acquire your power?
okay, so the other thing I gotta add here is this fact that everybody that I know hates me, drastically hates me. I can't get anything but hate given towards me. Just please know that that is an incredible compliment to my great honor on this earth, because the greatest allies of the devil are men who do not think. There is literally nothing that I have to offer the world that is not an attempt to get men to think. Therefore, I am one of the greatest enemies of this devil that is outwitting you and has control of your life right now. As I just said, there's literally zero chance. I mean, there's a 3% chance he doesn't have control of you already, but that's pretty much zero, because you ain't living out on a farm. Like that 97%, that doesn't really apply to people who live in cities. It's more like 99.9. I mean, yeah, that's just my opinion there. I could be wrong on that, but regardless of that, it's a solid stone cold fact. 97% of you going down under, spend eternity. Whether or not you believe in that in a Christian way or a natural way, whatever you do in this life, it's going to end up punishing you. And as we're about to see, that punishment is because you chose to follow the quote-unquote devil.
Every religion.
Who are your greatest enemies on earth, Your Majesty?
All who inspire people to think and act on their own initiative are my enemies. Such men as Socrates, Confucius.
Well, as they say, you are what your habits are, and the vast majority of you have terrible habits. Most of what I do is try to teach you how to have better habits so you don't end up in a mess of a life like most of you have and are and will. Most of this is in regards to health, but in pretty much every way, the only thing I have to offer anybody is methods to bring about better habits in their life. And what do I get answered with for doing so? Well, a literal endless parade of all of the 7 deadly sins. You're about to hear about them. This is how you are controlled. I mean, I see it all the time. The amount of evil stuff said towards me is utterly ridiculous considering the content matter of the stuff that I'm bringing to the table here. Like, it's just mind-numbing. It's truly mind-numbing.
Cleverest tricks. I enter the minds of people through thoughts which they believe to be their own. Those most useful to me are fear, superstition, avarice, greed, lust, revenge, anger, vanity, and plain laziness. Through one or more of these I can enter any mind, at any age. But I get my best results when I take charge of a mind while it is young, before its owner has learned how to close any of these 9 doors. Then I can set up habits which keep the doors ajar forever.
I'm catching on to your methods. Now, let us go back to the habit of drifting. Tell us all about that habit, since you say it is your cleverest trick.
Well, I know she didn't write this quote, but I'm going to quote Lauryn Hill on this one. The road to hell is paved with good intentions. The road to hell is paved with good intentions. That's how it always is. Almost all of you have a sense of superiority in your mind based upon what it is that you do in your life as your profession. And, well, hey, I'm sorry to break it to you, but about 97% of your work is going along with the beast known as the devil. Or I like to properly call it Lucifer, but about good 97% of you, like, you go along to get along. Well, you're going along with the very system of evil put into place by the quote-unquote devil, and you think that you're doing good in the world by continuing this system of control upon humanity. And I got news for you. Just because you think your profession was noble and you think that what you did in your life was for the good of humanity or whatever fantasy dreams you like to portray yourselves as being, because all of you are heroes in your own mind, well, I'm sorry to tell you that you went along with the beast system. As usual.
Tell me all about this second best trick of yours with which you induce people to drift with you to hell.
My second best trick is not second at all. It is first. It is first because without it I never could gain control of the minds of the youths. Parents, school teachers, religious instructors, and many other adults unknowingly serve my purpose by helping me to destroy in children the habit of thinking for themselves. They go about their work in various ways, never suspecting what they are doing to the minds of children or the real cause of the children's mistakes.
I can hardly believe you, Your Majesty. I've always believed that children's best friends were those closest to them, their parents, their school teachers, and their religious instructors. Where would children go for dependable guidance if not to those who have charge of them?
That is where my cleverness comes in. There is the exact explanation of how I control 98% of the people of the world. I take possession of people during their youth, before they come into possession of their own minds, by using those who are in charge of them. I especially need the help of those who give children their religious instruction, because it is here that I break down independent thought and start people on the habit of drifting, by confusing their minds with unprovable ideas concerning a world of which they know nothing. It is here also that I plant in the minds of children the greatest of all fears, the fear of hell.
I understand that it is easy for you to frighten children with threats of hell, but how do you continue to make them fear you and your hell after they grow up and learn to think for themselves?
Children grow up, but they do not always learn to think for themselves. Once I capture the mind of a child through fear, I weaken that child's ability to reason and to think for himself, and that weakness goes with the child all through life.
Is that not
Oh, and don't think you're safe because you think that you are religious. See, if you do the math on this, the whole 97% of people going to hell, well, if you do the math on how many percentage of people are Christians making up that 97%, or quote-unquote Christians, that they call themselves anyway, they don't follow anything that Jesus Christ taught. They don't even read what he taught. So if you think you're safe because you're working from a religious point of view, you are not safe. You people are the worst offenders of all. I hope that the heathens listening to this take particular note of this, because these people are the biggest scumbags of all. Anybody who tells you to believe on something without thinking about it is an evil person. Well, to me, is an evil person. That's up for God to judge, but based on standards of righteousness, it's pretty easy to call you evil, to spread belief of anything at all without a foundation of truth to back it, which is literally almost everything in society, especially coming from you religious zealots. So please know that if you're a religious zealot, I don't get along with you more than anybody. A lot of you would think that I would get along with the religious nut jobs. Hell no. They're going down under just the same as you are. You suckers.
destroy their children's power to think for themselves? I never heard of such a monstrosity.
I accomplish this through a very clever trick. I cause the parents to teach their children to believe as the parents do in connection with religion, politics, marriage, and other important subjects. In this way, as you can see, when I gain control of the mind of a person, I can easily perpetuate the control by causing that person to help me fasten it upon the minds of his offspring.
In what other ways do you use parents to convert children into drifters?
I cause children to become drifters by following the example of their parents, most of whom I have already taken over and bound eternally to my cause. In some parts of the world I gain mastery over children's minds and subdue their willpower in exactly the same way that men break and subdue animals of lower intelligence. It makes no difference to me how a child's will is subdued, as long as it fears something. I will enter its mind through that fear and limit the child's power to think independently.
It seems that you go out of your way to keep people from thinking.
Yes, accurate thought is death to me. I cannot exist in the minds of those who think accurately. I do not mind people thinking, as long as they think in terms of fear, discouragement, hopelessness, and destructiveness. When they begin to think in constructive terms of faith, courage, hope, and definiteness of purpose, they immediately become allies of my opposition, and are therefore lost to me.
I'm beginning to understand how you get...
Same problem that exists in the religious institutions exists in the educational institutions as well. It is a total lack of thought or regard for the future in any manner. It is only about achieving results and administration of those results, and oftentimes those results are completely misguided upon the education of a child. I'm going to do a lot of work on this one coming up, so watch out for this, but the entire education system is based upon rooting out individual thought from the individual. They do not teach you to be able to think original thoughts. It's actually programmed into the entirety of schooling from start until finish to eliminate the capacity for original thought. The main way they do this is by teaching you how to not read through using, well, I'm going to go into this in my other video, but it's good. So they teach you to Learn to read through memorization techniques versus phonetically sounding out words, which forever hamstrings you in your pursuit of original thought, because if you can't read, you can't obtain any guidance whatsoever from technical manuals, because you can't think. To be able to have guidance from anything technical, you have to be able to think upon your own. That's why you school teachers are the worst offenders, only second to the religious zealots, who are much like you, much like you in how they go about their business, and you don't even understand it. Like, the vast majority of public school teachers will argue into their graves that they are secular people, but they are in fact following a religion and proving as much as child's play, and I will do so. I'm coming hard for you, because actually I because of studying this video to do this, I already had plans in motion to totally expose everything I know about the education system, but after what I heard in this, you're probably about to hear it here. I forget if I got it in this one, but after what I heard in this, I'm coming hard after the school education, because now I have the goal in mind that I can be the single-handed one who brings you down on my own. I don't need anybody's help. I got all the information I need. All I got to do is spread it. So I'm coming for you guys. Look out for that.
You gain control of the minds of children through the help of their parents and religious instructors, but I do not see how the school teachers help you in this damnable work.
School teachers help me gain control of the minds of children, not so much by what they teach the children, as because of what they do not teach them. The entire public school system is so administered that it helps my cause by teaching children almost everything except how to use their own minds and think independently. I live in fear that someday some courageous person will reverse the present system of school teaching and deal my cause a death blow by allowing the students to become the instructors, using those who now serve as teachers only as guides to help the children establish ways and means of developing their own minds from within. When that time comes, the school teachers will no longer belong to my staff.
I was under the impression that the purpose of all schooling was to help children to think.
That may be the purpose of schooling, but the system in most of the schools of the world does not carry out the purpose. School children are taught not to develop and use their own minds, but to adopt and use the thoughts of others. This sort of schooling destroys the capacity for independent thought, except in a few rare cases where the children rely so definitely upon their own willpower that they refuse to allow others to do their thinking. Accurate thought is the business of my opposition, not mine.
What relationship, if any, has your opposition with the homes, the churches, and the schools? Your reply to this question should be interesting.
Here is where I make use of some more of my clever tricks. I cause it to appear that everything done by the parents, the school teachers, and the religious instructors is being done by my opposition. This diverts attention from me, while I manipulate the minds of the young. When religious instructors try to teach children the virtues of my opposition, they generally do so by frightening them with my name. That is all I ask of them. I kindle the flame of fear into proportions which destroy the child's power to think accurately. In the public schools, the teachers further my cause by keeping the children so busy cramming non-essential information into their minds, they have no opportunity to think accurately or to analyze correctly the things their instructors teach them.
Do you claim for your cause all those who are bound by the habit of drifting?
No. Drifting is only one of my tricks through which I take over the power of independent thought. Before a drifter becomes my permanent property, I must lead him on and ensnare him with another trick. I will tell you about this other trick after I finish describing my methods of converting people into drifters.
Do you mean you have a method by which you can cause people to drift so far away from self-determination that they can never save themselves?
Yes, a definite method, and it is so effective it never fails.
Do I understand you to claim your method is so powerful your opposition cannot reclaim those whom you have permanently ensnared through drifting?
I claim just that. Do you think I would control so many people if my opposition could prevent me? Nothing can stop me from controlling people except people themselves. Nothing can stop me.
The main thing I hear all day long from everybody I see is, I can't do this and I can't do that and You don't know the cure for every disease on earth. You don't know how to cure diabetes. You people are a bunch of cowards. The greatest thing holding you all back is how much time you spend whining about what you can't do. Whereas if you actually just, went through with it and did it, or at least tried to do it, you'd gain some experience and be able to build upon that experience. But no, everybody seems to just keep crying and crying about how they can't do it. Especially so when it comes to diet. Like most of the stuff that I talk about that angers everybody, that riles everybody up and gets them to go absolutely apeshit on me and send me all kinds of vile nonsense, and then also demonize me when I respond to such vile nonsense, or at least attempt to anyway, at least in this, to the secular world. Okay, but bridging to this, the reason I talk about nutrition all the time is because you can't have proper brain function if you don't have proper nutrition. The main aspect of getting your life together is getting on top of a nutritional program that can allow you to thrive. If you're depending upon a system of food that's designed for convenience over nutritional aspects that do things like promote better brain health, and actually most of the school system and the aforementioned religious system, they refuse to even ever acknowledge the fact that nutrition has any impact upon brain function whatsoever, when in reality it's the main driving force of all that you need to have a life that you call your own. If you don't have your nutrition under control, you're under the control of whoever is providing your nutrition. And, well, as we see, it's basically the devil doing that and having you under his thumb through control of your food supply. I talk about this all the time. I mean, it's literally endless. This right here, to me, is the main linchpin of everything, because at the time this was all written, well, nutrition hadn't gotten down into this whole Frankenfood, McDonald's nonsense that we see in the world today. Like when this book was written, they were relatively limited in terms of the damage they could do to their own brains with the food supply system that was in place. Nowadays, you can do irreparable damage following all sorts of nonsensical and unethical ideas, and I call it religious zealot zealot behavior. I mean, there's really no two ways to go about it. As I said, with the whole school teachers being secularized into their own religion, it's the same thing with a lot of the dietary aspects of the world. I mean, you can't really find anybody who isn't on some religious bullshit, and I don't mean that as in their diet is Catholic or something. I mean, like, veganism is a religious cult type of thing that's happening with like everything when it comes to religion. There's so much divisiveness when in reality the whole system is real simple, and there's basically no acceptable reason for any of you to be out of shape other than you've fallen for these tricks that get you incapable of thinking original thoughts, which leads you to be easily misled on the subject of nutrition.
Self-determination that they can never save themselves?
Yes, a definite method, and it is so effective it never fails.
Do I understand you to claim your method is so powerful your opposition cannot reclaim those whom you have permanently ensnared through drifting?
I claim just that. Do you think I would control so many people if my opposition could prevent me? Nothing can stop me from controlling people except people themselves. Nothing can stop me except the power of accurate thought. People who think accurately do not drift on any subject. They recognize the power of their own minds. Moreover, they take over that power and yield it to no person or influence.
Go ahead and tell me more of the methods by which you cause people to drift to hell with you.
I cause people to drift on every subject through which I can control independent thought and action. Take the subject of health, for example. I cause most people to eat too much food, and the wrong sort of food. This leads to indigestion and destroys the power of accurate thought. If the public schools and the churches taught children more about proper eating, they would do my cause irreparable damage. Marriage. I cause men and women to drift into marriage without plan or purpose designed to convert the relationship into harmony.
Well, piss a lot of people off, but I'm just going to say what I got to say. You might wonder how marriage could be a tool to lead you to hell, but there's a heck of a lot of ways that it can do so. I mean, in this day and age in particular, almost everybody that I see that is in a relationship is in a codependent relationship, and it's mostly built upon how much money and resources they can extract out of their partner. And in terms of a lot of men, it's mostly lustful desires that they're seeking to extract out of the woman. It's pretty sickening all around. I know very few people who are in a happy marriage. Well, I can't even say that I know they are in one way or another, but I wouldn't even begin to start naming names of people who I know are in a secure and happy marriage. So this one right here, surprising weapon that they use against you. I mean, the whole wandering eyes of people and their lustful desires. Most marriages nowadays are built on a lustful construct to begin with. They're gone into with lust in mind in their entirety.
Marriage. I cause men and women to drift into marriage without plan or purpose designed to convert the relationship into harmony. Here is one of my most effective methods of converting people into the habit of drifting. I cause married people to bicker and nag one another over money matters. I cause them to quarrel over the bringing up of their children. I engage them in unpleasant controversies over their intimate relationships and in disagreements over friends and social activities. I keep them so busy finding fault with one another that they never have time to do anything else long enough to break the habit of drifting.
The job that you all hold is yet another mental enslavement of you by the devil. Well, I mean, have you ever met a person that doesn't immediately say to you, "Hey pal, what do you do for a living?" and then judge you on it? Well, yeah, that's basically everybody. I don't even know how you guys live with that question on the forefront of your minds, considering the fact that almost all of your work is meaningless. In the grand scheme of things, you're literally just propping up a system of evil with your work and accepting a bunch of money coupons as your payment for propping up evil, and you think you're not going to end up paying for that, but you will. But besides that, the fear that people have, okay, you know, all you millennials and a lot of Gen Xers too, and all you Gen Zs that are coming up, well, a lot of you are complaining about your $150,000 in school loans. Well, how did you end up with that? You know why you ended up with $150,000 in school loans that you can't pay back for a job that never existed in the first place? Well, the short answer is fear. You let people bully you into believing that you had to go about this certain life scenario that was never in existence in the first place. I'm going to go over this in my video that I'm going to do on education. But there were never jobs to begin with. The entire educational system was actually designed to turn you into cashiers and baristas and janitors and all kinds of crappy jobs in the service sector. So, like, you should have never had a fear that you were going to end up working at McDonald's if you didn't spend $150,000 on your education. Because if you had simply used your original thought capacity to educate yourself on this, you would have realized that these jobs never existed in the first place, and it was relatively easy to prove this to be true. You were steered into hospitality sector jobs by your overlord masters, who your parents created this system to prop you up into thinking you had to get that special degree to make all the money. And look what happened to you. Now you're a wage slave complaining about how poor you are. I didn't do any of it. And what do you know? I don't have any debt, and I don't complain about all this bullshit like you.
I teach people to become drifters by causing them to drift out of school into the first job they can find, with no definite aim or purpose except to make a living. Through this trick, I keep millions of people in fear of poverty all their lives. Through this fear, I lead them slowly but surely onward until they reach the point beyond which no individual ever has broken the drifting habit. Savings. I cause people to spend freely and to save sparingly, or not at all. until I take complete control of them through their fear of poverty. Environment. I cause people to drift into inharmonious and unpleasant environments in the home, in their places of occupation, in their relationship with relatives and acquaintances, and to remain there until I claim them through the habit of drifting. Dominative drifting. Dominating thoughts. I cause people to drift into the habit of thinking negative thoughts. This leads to negative acts, and involves people in controversies and fills their minds with fears, thus paving the way for me to enter and control their minds. When I move in, I do so by appealing to people through negative thoughts, which they believe to be their own. I plant the seeds of negative thought in the minds of people through the pulpit, the newspapers, the moving pictures, the radio, and all other popular methods of appeal to the mind. I cause people to allow me to do their thinking for them, because they are too lazy and too indifferent to think for themselves.
So this is yet another thing, but I'm constantly trying to teach people about the facts that their rights come from the Creator, and that America is founded upon the idea of Creator-endowed rights, which means, actually it says in the Declaration of Independence that you never read in school because your secularized school teachers are led by the devil, and they didn't teach you any of this because they think it's a bunch of made-up nonsense that has no place in reality. But in reality, the people that founded this nation knew it was such a truth that it's self-evident. Creation by God is a self-evident truth. It's stated in the second paragraph of the Declaration of Independence. Google a copy of it and read it if you don't believe me. We hold these truths to be self-evident. It's pretty simple. You were created by God. Your rights come from the Creator. The Declaration of Independence outlines that your rights come from the Creator. So all of you out here who hate America because it's a Christian nation or whatever the hell you're talking about, well, the God that this nation is founded on isn't the Christian God. It's just a logical God that anybody with a working brain can prove exists. You don't have to be a Christian to know that God exists, which is the beauty of America. America was founded on the protection of the Creator-endowed rights of all people, regardless of what they believe in. That is why a whole hell of a lot of you need to get the hell out of here and go to the hell you're going to, because you're trying to strip people of their religious rights to believe as they choose. When in reality, this nation was founded on the truth of God, and that's the real reason that this nation is so hated. This is probably, well, I could say this about a lot of stuff, but this is one of the topics that really ticks me off when I deal with you people, because when I try to talk to you about it, I'm talking to you about things that are truths that cannot be undone by anything. They're just true. You simply don't believe in them, and because of your belief, you put yourself on an intellectual pedestal that you absolutely do not belong on. None of you have any business speaking on anything to do with American politics whatsoever. If you don't know and can prove and can speak upon the fact that your rights are Creator-endowed, and that everything in our Constitution is outlined to protect these Creator-endowed rights, and that almost all of your political positions you hold are a violation of all of the concepts that we hold so dearly in regards to Creator-endowed rights. It shouldn't even be a question that every political controversy in America ends up coming back to whether or not government is violating your Creator-endowed rights through its action. Because if it is not and cannot be a law. And if you and all you 97%ers out there who are going to hell think that it is a law just because of some mythical agreement of the majority that you believe so strongly in, well, you're probably going to go to hell, because all of your political positions are a violation of the very rights you are endowed with. If they're not they are a violation of your rights and the rights of the others you seek to enslave by asking government to step outside the bounds of holding itself within the limitations of Creator-endowed rights or not. And the reason you do that is because nobody ever even taught you about any of this. every single time I ever bring it up to anybody, I get called a religious wacko nutjob when none of this has anything at all to do with religion. It shouldn't even be a question that America is upholding the creator-endowed rights of the people. And they're the only nation in history to have ever done so. In any arguments anybody wants to bring forth about slavery in America existing being antithetical to the protection of the creator-endowed rights of the individual, well, you don't know what you're talking about. That's a whole other discussion. I'm going to make a presentation on that one for y'all. So look out for that one.
You from being exposed. But let us come back to Earth. Tell me now what drifting is doing to us as a nation here in the United States.
Frankly, I may as well tell you that I hate the United States as only the devil can hate.
That is interesting. What is the cause of this hatred?
The cause was born on July 4, 1776, when 56 men signed a document which destroyed my chances of controlling the nation. You know that document as the Declaration of Independence. Had it not been for the influence of that damnable document, I would now have a dictator running the country, and I would stop this right to free speech and independent thought that is threatening my rule on earth.
Am I to understand from what you say that nations controlled by self-appointed dictators belong in your camp?
There are no self-appointed dictators. I appoint them all. Moreover, I manipulate them and direct them in their work. Nations run by my dictators know what they want and take it by force. Look what I have done through Mussolini in Italy. Look what I am doing through Hitler in Germany. Look what I am doing through Stalin in Russia. My dictators run those nations for me because the people have been subdued through the habit of drifting. My dictators do no drifting. That is why they rule for me the millions of people under their control.
What would happen if Mussolini, Stalin, and Hitler turned traitors and disavowed you and your rule?
That will not happen because I have them too well bribed. I am paying each of them with the sop of his own vanity, by making him believe he is acting on his own account. That is another trick of mine.
Let us come back to the...
Well, I don't really got a lot to say on this other than it's pretty freaking easy to learn how to control people through flattery. I mean, shit, my own dad got all his money taken just because he's so fucking stupid. He got flattered into getting all his money stolen. It's a tale as old as time itself. Flattery destroys people because it's easy to control them through it. So anytime you ever see anybody flattering you, don't take it. Run the other way from it. I don't accept any compliments from anybody because I don't give a fuck what you got to say to me, good or bad. You need to get to a point where I'm at where you don't care, good or bad, what anybody thinks. Otherwise, you're going to be a victim of flattery.
That last dart was unnecessary. Knowledge of the sort I've used to master you does not contaminate itself with vulgar indulgence and vanity. Truth is the one and only thing in the world that can stand ridicule. Now let us continue with your confession. What is wrong with the principle of flattery? You use it, do you not?
Do I use it? Man alive, flattery is one of my most useful weapons. With this deadly instrument I slay the big ones and the little ones.
Your admission interests me. Go ahead now and tell me how you make use of flattery.
I make use of it in so many ways it is difficult to know where to begin. I warn you, before I answer in detail, that publishing my answers will bring down an avalanche of ridicule on your head for bringing up the question.
I'll take the responsibility. Proceed.
Well, I may as well here admit that you have stumbled onto the major secret of how I convert people to the habit of drifting.
That is a startling admission. Go ahead with your confession, and stick strictly to this subject of flattery. No more side remarks and no more facetiousness for the present. Tell me all about your use of flattery in gaining control over people.
Flattery is a bait of incomparable value to all who wish to gain control over others. It has powerful pulling qualities because it operates through two of the most common human weaknesses, vanity and egotism. There is a certain amount of vanity and egotism in everyone. In some people, these qualities are so pronounced, they literally serve as a rope by which one may be bound. The best of all ropes is flattery. Flattery is the chief bait through which men seduce women. Sometimes, in fact, frequently, Women use the same bait to gain control of men, especially men who cannot be mastered through sex appeal. I teach its use to both men and women. Flattery is the chief bait with which my agents weave their way into the confidence of people from whom they procure information needed to carry on warfare. Wherever anyone stops to feed his vanity on flattery, I move in and begin to build another drifter. Non-drifters are not easily flattered. I inspire people to use flattery in every human relationship where its use is possible, because those who are influenced by it become easy victims of the drifting habit.
Can you control anyone who is amenable to flattery?
Very easily. As I have already told you, flattery is of major importance in alluring people into the habit of drifting.
At what age are people most susceptible to flattery?
Age has nothing to do with one's susceptibility to flattery. People respond to it in one way or another from the time they become conscious of their own existence until they die.
Through what motive can women be most easily flattered?
Their vanity. Tell a woman she is pretty or that she wears clothes well.
What motive is most effective in harpooning men?
Egotism, with a capital E. Tell a man he has a strong Herculean body or that he is a great business tycoon, and he will purr like a cat and smile like an opossum. After that, you know what happens.
Are all men like that?
Oh, no. 2 out of every 100 have their egotism so thoroughly under control that even an expert flatterer couldn't get under their skins with a double-edged butcher knife.
How does a cunning woman apply her art of flattery in attracting men?
Great heavens, man, do I have to draw a picture of her method for you? Have you no imagination?
Oh, yes, I have.
I have no judgments about anybody who's tied down with habits like cigarette smoking or alcoholism or anything like that, because I know the real cause of it, and you'll never get over it without listening to me on this. It's called trace mineral deficiencies. I talk about this all the time. So if you put your power of independent thought to work and you figure out what trace minerals do in the body, it's fairly easy to tie addiction of any kind to trace mineral deficiencies. I'm pretty much like one of the only people in the world who knows about this, so I'm one of the only people in the world left activating my power of original thought, which is part of the reason I figured this out on my own. So anybody that does want to know how to overcome addictions of any kind, talk to me. There is no mental willpower involved with overcoming addictions. It can only be done through taking nutrition seriously every hour of the day for the rest of your life. But that doesn't just mean taking nutrition seriously, because taking nutrition seriously can only happen if you're supplementing trace minerals. This is why I'm always talking about this. There is no vice you can break. There is nothing you can do to escape your vices if you are deficient in trace minerals. And through the works of the devil on our food supply, our entire food supply has no trace minerals in it whatsoever. Nobody's paid to provide them. Nobody even knows about them from a scientific perspective. Even the greatest scientists in the world, barring a few of them, have utterly no conception of what I know about trace minerals and their roots and their deficiencies being the very root of addiction of all kinds, including the cause of obesity. I'll throw you guys a bone here on this one. If you're deficient in the mineral known as vanadium, you're going to have binge eating disorder. You're going to crave foods. You are deficient in the mineral vanadium. That's why you're craving foods. Partially because you can't absorb the mineral vanadium even if it was in your diet in the first place, because of the foods you're eating that are offsetting your ability to absorb such a nutrient. So if you want to learn about how to break your vices, you better start listening to me. And that means, and I'm talking to everybody on that. I don't care what your science degree is. I don't give a shit there's about 3 people in the world that know this better than I do, and you ain't one of them. So listen to me, buddy!
Control of human minds. Cigarettes or liquor?
Without hesitation, I would say cigarettes. Once I get a young person to join my 2-package-a-day club, I have no trouble in inducing that person to take on the habit of liquor, overindulgence of sex, and all other related habits which destroy independence of thought and action.
Your Majesty, when I began this interview, I had you all wrong. I thought you were a fraud and a fake, but I see now that you are quite real and very powerful.
Your apology is accepted, but you need not have bothered. Millions of people have questioned my power. and I got most of them at the gate as they came over. I ask no person to believe in me. I prefer that people fear me. I am no beggar. I take what I want by cleverness and force. Begging people to believe is the business of my opposition, not mine.
Your Majesty will please pardon my rudeness, but go ahead now and confess why you are powerless to stop me from forcing this confession from you. I want your confession for aid and comfort to victims of yours whom I intend to release from your control the moment they read your confession.
I am powerless to influence or control you, because you have found the secret approach to my kingdom. You know that I exist only in the minds of people who have fears. You know that I control only the drifters who neglect to use their own minds. You know that my hell is here on earth, and not in the world that comes after death. And you know also that drifters supply all the fire I use in my hell. You know that I am a principle or form of energy which expresses the negative side of matter and energy, and that I am not a person with a forked tongue and a spiked tail. You have become my master because you have mastered all your fears. Lastly, you know that you can release all of my earthbound victims whom you contact, and this definite knowledge is the blow with which you will deal me the greatest damage. I cannot control you because you have discovered your own mind, and you have taken charge of it. There now, Mr. Earthbound, that confession should feed your vanity to the bursting point.
That last dart was unnecessary. Knowledge of the source...
You can best define the word drift by saying that people who think for themselves never drift, while those who do little or no thinking for themselves are drifters. A drifter is one who permits himself to be influenced and controlled by circumstances outside of his own mind. He would rather let me occupy his mind and do his thinking than go to the trouble of thinking for himself. A drifter is one who accepts whatever life throws in his way without making a protest or putting up a fight. He doesn't know what he wants from life and spends all of his time getting just that. A drifter has lots of opinions, but they are not his own. Most of them are supplied by me. A drifter is one who is too lazy mentally to use his own brain. That is the reason I can take control of people's thinking and plant my own ideas in their minds.
I think I understand what a drifter is. Tell me the exact habits of people by which you induce them to drift through life. Start by telling me when and how you first gained control of a person's mind.
My control over the mind of a human being is obtained while the person is young. Sometimes I lay the foundation for my control of a mind before the owner of it is born, by manipulating the minds of that person's parents. Sometimes I go further back than this, and prepare people for my control through what you earthbound call physical heredity. You see, therefore, I have two approaches to the mind of a person.
Yes. Go on, and describe these two doors by which you enter and control the minds of human beings.
As I have stated, I help to bring people into your world with weak brains by giving to them before birth as many as possible of the weaknesses of their ancestors. You call this principle physical heredity. After people are born, I make use of what you earthbound call environment as a means of controlling them. This is where the principle of habit enters. The mind is nothing more than the sum total of one's habits. One by one, I enter the mind and establish habits, which lead finally to my absolute domination of the mind.
Tell me of the most...
Devil beating me will never come.
Yeah, but me, I just take mine. Give me those, give me this, give me that, fuck that. You never see me stress. Energy, yes, on the prize. My greedy eyes can't see no less. Jigger incredible. Even my thoughts is federal. Like kidnapping, extortion, and corruption. So you know, beating me, I never come like a nun or tomorrow. I'm too thorough, nigga. I make moves, cause bows to move when I'm creeping through your way with 1,000 little dudes. With a piece like Islam, I make your eyes rise like yeast. Surprise, I feel no fear when facing y'all. Bet your lyrics jump off the track like racing cars. MCs trying to be the best, and even in dying couldn't beat his death. I see no reason to stop cheesing ever since L said throw 3 G's in.